my name is Markus Hammarstedt, and I'm gonna show you how to retarget and clean up a simple animation, MoCap animation, in MotionBuilder. So first off, we need to open up the MoCap file, like so, and here we have an actor. He's retargeted onto some markers. This is usually how you get motion capture files from a recording studio when you outsource MoCap. So anyways, here we have a set of different animations where he stabs with a knife. It looks kind of weird, but anyways, it's a good start. So first off, we need to get our rig in here to retarget this onto our character for our game or movie or whatever we're doing. So we pull over the resources window, and here I've added the favorite path. So I have my rig here, so I just pull it over, merge, no animation. And so now we have our rig, our guy in here. So we need to target him so that he gets the movement from this actor guy. So we have the navigator here, and under characters, we have our character that we just imported into the scene. So double click that, and then change input type to actor instead of control rig, and hit active. And then you see that he now mimics the movement. And what you do then is that you go here. Here I have the mic character selected. Then you go plot to skeleton. And now you can see back in the navigator that it turned off the input type actor. It's not active anymore on this guy. So now he actually has all that. This animation is on the actual bones of this character. So now we just save this as MoCap retargeted, like that, save. And then we open up the rig file as is, like that. Then we just go file, import, motion file import, and we choose retargeted. Then we, this is like the default settings, I think, and then merge, and then just unclick everything here, no models, and then we have our take here, import, continue, and now we have the animation here, like so. And now because we have several different animations here, like long one, but I only want one of them. So I'm gonna choose this one that starts at 180 until sort of 220 or something. Like that. Yeah, like that. So I'm gonna choose that one because it's like a cool slashing sort of move. Okay, so the next thing we want to do is, because he needs something to slash with, obviously. He can't just go like this with the hand. Well, he could, but it would be sort of weird. So I happen to have a knife model that I would like to use for this. In assets, knife. So I merge this without any animations. So here we have our little knife thingy. So what I'm going to do is that I will just create a simple constraint under here. Right click, insert constraint parent child. And then select the bone, the root bone for this knife. Hold Alt and drag into constrained, this child in this case. And then on this rig I have an attach bone here. This is the hierarchy sort of view. If you hold Control and click W, we'll go into here, and here I have my right weapon bone. So I will drag that. Same thing, Alt, left click, drag into parent. And then I'll hit 0 because we want to snap the knife root to this bone. And then unclick lock because we want to be able to edit this. Now if we click Ctrl E and jump back, we see that the knife is attached to the hand. But it's sort of off. So what we do is we select this bone and we just put it on a better sort of position. Don't need to be exact right now because we can edit this later. Something like that. Okay, cool. Like so. Then on the new layer, key that so the bone will stay. Voila. Now he sort of slashes with the knife in a sort of weird fashion. So next step is to start posing this guy, because this pose is sort of weird. We also want to make it loop, because if we look at the first and last frame of this, we see that it doesn't really loop, so it will look really bad if we want to repeat this. So what we do is we go up here and just go plot to rig. So now I have all my controllers here. So first off, we could start with just making this guy loop, for example. So how to do that is to just select this, and then we key whole body up here, full body, key, and then on the end we want the same thing. So what we do is we bring up, I lost a window. Yeah, in resources we have pose controls. So we just create a pose from this, and then we go to the end, and we, without matching at all, we apply the same pose and hit key. Like that, and now it loops. It still looks very, very weird, but at least it loops. So we will fix what it actually looks like now. So this is sort of cool. A good way to see if when you key like this and put a new pose, it's good to see if you messed up the animation at all. If it looks better in the original version. So what you could do is select it all and hit 0 key down here, which means you set a key that tells it to only listen to base layer instead of layer 1. And as you can see here, it doesn't really make a lot of change, so we didn't mess it up by making it loop, so it's still sort of original. You can also try to enable the IK on this by putting on reach to see it looks better with that. Again, there is no real change here, so I'll probably leave it like that, I think, because it's kind of smoother. So anyways, but now we want to start editing this, and what I usually do is that I plot this down to base animation, base layer, so that I have a clean set to work with. So again, up here in this menu here, plot to skeleton, and then plot back to rig again. So now we have all the keys on the base layer. So now we could start with posing the fingers, for example. Make a nice sort of fist so he sort of grips it. And of course, if it doesn't match, just like move the attach bone and make the grip work way better, as this isn't really perfect. And then the thumb, like that. Let's say we're happy with that. Key. And the same with the other hand. It's sort of weird because people don't stand like this. Something like that. We'll repost this hand in a second as well to see if this works. Okay, let's say we're happy with that. Key this as well. Worth noting is when you have a body part like this and you have one finger selected and you hit key, you get this key here, and this key actually keys all the fingers. So if I were to delete this, all the fingers would be reversed. It's not one body key per finger, it's all the keys. So next up we could repose this hand a little bit. And then we need to raise the shoulders a bit because they're sort of off. Something like that. And then maybe change the way he holds the knife slightly. Okay, so let's start with that. Now we can see here that the arm suddenly moves very, very strange. And that's because of the way I repositioned the arms on the first frame here. So what we can do is just, where it's ultra weird, just have that hand selected, have body part, and then 0. And voila. It goes back to where it was. And then you can just work out of that and just reposition it in the way you want. Like the shoulders now are messed up again because I zeroed it out. So just raise that a bit and make it sort of better looking. And then here in the middle something odd happens as well. We want him to actually slash with a knife. Like this. Because I changed all the keys here, like the first key and so on, and these as well. I repositioned the right arm. Now it doesn't loop anymore, so the last and first frame are not the same. So all you need to do is just hit full body and just copy this and paste it on the last frame. And now it loops again. Like that. There are some odd things going on here, but I can fix that really quick. Only lower that a bit. Click that. Done on body part. Like that. So, and now I will start editing the spine and so on, because his pose is very, I don't know, I don't like this very girly sort of pose that is going on here, so I'm gonna fix that, but I don't want to mess up what I've done with the arms, so what I will do is I will plot it all down to base layer again, to have sort of a fresh start. So how I would like him to stand is sort of more like, heads up on some shortcuts here is like W and E is to do pinning for translation and rotation. So now I pressed E to make it pin on rotation. So when I rotate this down on full body, the head rotation will stay, which is what I sort of want. So this is sort of a more gruff, sort of thug sort of pose that I would like to have. A bit too spread apart with the legs maybe, but like that. Now we'll remove reach here. Something like this. Full body key. This is more what I would like. This is sort of odd. You can see the shoulder goes very, very high here. Just do that. And copy this so we save the looping. Actually, this. This arm goes in way too far. Again, the shoulders acting up. something like this. Shoulders can always be tricky to get them to work well. Okay, so let's say we're happy with that. Sort of a looping sort of thing, and he sort of slashes now with it. So we'll yeah, so let's say we're happy with this. Obviously there's a lot to do here. But yeah, let's say I've been cleaning this for a couple of hours, and I want to finish it up even more. So we can see here there is something weird going on with this arm here. It flips around, and this is probably due to the retargeting that we did earlier. If you hold J in MotionBuilder and left click and drag it to the left and right, you can pan sort of seamlessly between the frames. And then it's easier to see these things. There's something really odd going on here. So what we can do then is that we want to remove all the keys on these bones here, but we want to keep everything on this hand and on the shoulder, on this clavicle here. So what we can do then is plot everything down to skeleton. So we save everything that we did on layer 1, and now it's all baked into base layer. So back onto the rig, and then we bring up the resources window again. We go asset browser, templates, elements, and then the marker ordinal. It doesn't really matter. I like markers. They are red and square and pretty. So we can remove this again. Scale it up a bit so we can see it. And then we create another parent-child constraint. And this is the child. And this hand, which we'll put reach on, is the parent. Snap that. So now it follows the hand. Then we select this, and just on base animation, base layer, we go plot selected, all properties. So now we basically bake everything down so that it will have this movement keyed, ready to go. Then we bring this back, we turn off this constraint here, and we can turn off the reach on this, the IK, and then we create the aux effector, which is basically a new IK controller for this arm. You can do that, so you can see them separately. This is the original one, and this is the aux effector that we created. And with this, we can constrain this entire arm to this marker that we created. So if you bring this back here, and we just move the marker and make that a parent, and then with this selected, we just drag that to child and snap. And now we have the exact same movement, only difference is this is actually controlling the arm. So now what we can do is plot to skeleton, just select the lower arm and down, and bring up the F-curves editor, translation and rotation, and just remove everything except the first frame because we want to keep the elbow position on the first and last frame. So if we just keep the first frame, everything will be well and will still be looping. Like that. And now it looks weird because there is no animation on the left arm, but you can see that this is still jumping around, so that's the original animation that we had on that arm. So then when we plot it back to rig, and the constraint that we created earlier is working. See, now we have the entire movement on the arm still there, but this sort of wonkiness that we had earlier is gone, which is very nice. And this obviously works for any body part. Basically, you can do this on the leg here. As you can see, there's some weird stuff going on here, and so on. So, but right now it's only working because it's on the constraint for this controller. So we need to plot it once again to skeleton and then back to control rig. So now we can actually just delete this. We can delete this control as well because we don't need it anymore. So now it's all on, back to the original rig. So just to show you guys one more time, I can go through the same procedure for the leg to remove this sort of weird thing that is going on there. So one more time, what we did is that we added a marker, scale it up a bit, bring up the navigator, create a parent-child constraint. We already have one here, so we'll reuse this. Drag that into child, make that controller the parent, 0, so that it follows. Select this, go base animation, and plot it, so it inherits the same animation with the keys. So, remove the IK or reach on this controller and create an aux effector. And bring up this again, turn off the constraint, make the marker the parent, and make the aux effector the child. Snap. Like that. And then plot it to skeleton, select this, and just delete everything except the first key. Like that. And plot it back to rig again. Now with this constraint on, you can see that we still have the animation on the foot, but the leg doesn't do the jerkiness anymore. There's still some weird thing going on there, but that's because the foot is rotating forward in the end of this animation, so we can fix that next. So we just need to plot this down first. That, and then we can remove all this junk. So we don't need this anymore. Delete. And delete that. Like that. So, thing that is going on here, we need to fix that. So I'll just key that on a new layer, basically. Slightly more like that. And just try to see what it is that is causing this weird reaction here. The knee. Something like that, and it looks way better. Plot this, and then what we can do, because it's clipping through the floor here, so what we can do is just see if floor contacts will solve that. So just bring up the navigator, go into character, mic, and then you have floor contacts. You have feet floor contacts. Check that. Now you can see that it's not clipping through anymore. So this is sort of a nice base to work off of, instead of compensating the feet so it doesn't go through the floor. So you can just, but it's very annoying to work with, because if you want to make it more flat, it can sort of behave strangely sometimes, and you don't have the same freedom as you do without the floor contacts enabled. So I just usually enable it and then plot it of the entire thing to rig, and then uncheck it again, so I have more control over the foot myself. And as you can see here, this should be more straight. Something like this. Like that. That looks way better. So next thing could be to fix the head, because we can see it's moving all over the place basically. And an easy way to do that is basically just to key on top of where it looks strange. Like for example here this pose is a bit strange. Should be something like that maybe. So cool, mean-looking dude, something like that. And then here we have a really strange thing going on. Goes into the body for some reason, so we just move that up front, back there, that key there, just go forward a bit. Still some strange stuff going on here. Keep moving forward. On the side, something like this. Forward a bit. Head is always a big problem with MoCap. It always moves very odd. Or not always, but usually. Something like that, maybe. There's still, like, you can tweak even more on this. You can play around with reach and try to make it even better. At least it's better than it was. You see, this is very, very strange. Something like that. No, it looks better. Like I said, there are still things to be done. You could also start deleting keys on the base layer and make it even smoother and so on. But let's say we're happy with this. Then we plot that to skeleton. And I haven't noticed there is some odd thing going on here. Like between this frame and this frame, there is like, he's doing a very sudden move with his entire spine. Like maybe you think it looks cool or not, but let's say we would like to remove it. I can show you guys how to do that. So basically how I would do it is I plot it back to rig and just put reach on onto these body parts that actually do this strangeness. And we want to keep the actual movement on the arms, so we put on reach on those, and then we just select these body parts, which is, as far as I could tell, the ones acting, doing this very sudden sort of move between these few frames here. And then bring up the curves, just check on base layer what's going on here. Here we can see, just because it's easier to see, we can just select spine here. And we can see here that this is like a very sudden movement here, and here is very like hard. So if we select everything, all of those, and then start deleting some stuff, and probably we'll see pretty quick improvement here. Like that. And then we can make it even softer by editing the keys, so the curves will be a bit smoother. Then we can see what that looks like. Smoother, way smoother. But we still have the initial movement on the arms and everything. You can also see there's some on both of the hands, they are sort of shaking almost into the end frame, which we don't want at all. And this arm is also moving a bit strange, so we can just move that out slightly to make it look sort of better. Maybe like this, maybe. Yeah, and it's very, very shaky. So if we plot all of this to say what we just did, can remove reach on these again because we don't need that. But we select these two. Same first. And go in here on base layer again. And here we can see that there's a lot of shakiness going on. It's very jerky and jiggity. So we could do, probably I would remove this, and then I would remove basically everything up to here, would probably make it way smoother. Like that. You can see that both of them are now way smoother than they were before. You can still see this weird sort of motion on this hand here, which could fix. Probably by removing this key here. To make sure everything is ultra smooth, you can turn on this thing here, trajectories, to get these curves to see how it moves. You can see here that there are obviously some very strange arcs going on here. So holding J and just scrubbing through, and you can see where those are. Like, this is very odd to me, this thing that is going on here. So what I would do is just again go into the F curves, just see where that is and just zoom in there. Just delete those keys, probably even up to there, and it will be a lot smoother than it was. You can just keep it going with this until it's like all smooth. Like here, there's some weird stuff going on as well. So again, just bring this up and start smoothing it out. You don't necessarily need to delete keys either. Sometimes it can just be about editing some keys. But this one is way too weird to keep, in my opinion. Like that. That one is slightly odd. But then also, instead of going through all the keys like this, you can also use the smooth filter. So let's say we want to smooth this arm out, because it's very, very, very shaky. First of all, it's good to plot body parts so we know that we have an even set of keyframes. Then you just have this open. Then just bring the correct windows up here. And then you go filters, and then you have different filters here. So with translation rotation selected, you see everything. Filters, smooth, and you have different settings here, and then you go preview. Accept to apply, and then when we look at this hand again, you'll see that it's smoother than before. The downside of this is that we lose the wideness of the arcs, let's say. So the movement will automatically become more compact, so sometimes you need to sit down and key on a new layer to make the poses as wide as they were. Like this, for example. But let's say I'm happy with this. Probably he should move his fingers on this hand a bit, because they are not made of stone. So let's select this, and then key in the first frame, because we want to keep that. Probably when he prepares like this, he would have them slightly more closed, like a fist almost. And then when they are out as much, the arm is reaching out, probably he would do something like this. And then back to original. Just timing a bit. Like that. This entire arm is very, very strange. So let's move that around a bit. Something like this, I think, for example. Now we can see when I key on top of the base layer, we can see that the arm is shaky again. So again, it's just select the hand controller and plot body part, and then you can start editing these curves again to make it less odd. Here we have some weird stuff going on. Probably could be a good idea to use the filter again. Then just plot the body part, bring up this window, everything filters with selected, smooth, preview, accept. And it looks better. And then we have this weird popping on the knee here on frame 213 that we would like to fix. So what you can do then is just key the leg, and just make sure that he doesn't step as far forward, basically. So we keep our key like there, maybe, and then he steps there. Just bring it back a bit, and just paste that key until he lifts up the leg again, and then keep back like that. Then also there's this weird sliding when he steps forward, so it slides from this frame until there. His foot moves slightly forward, so we would like to address this as well. What we can do is just, if we have a key there, the key until he lifts it, we can just bring that back slightly. And then we see that he doesn't move it at all. And then he lifts it again back to 0, so it goes back to its original position. Like that. But then it's very not smooth when done like this, so what we can do is just go in and edit the curves a bit. So he actually holds the foot still when he steps. This key here is very strange. That's way smoother. And then I think I would like him to hold his foot still from there, for example. Just make that flat and copy it to whenever, for how long he should keep his foot down, like that. And then to make it work with the following keys, just delete some in between there, and it will interpolate fine. Probably even like that. There we go. And then to remove the toe weird thing that he's doing here, just plot it down to skeleton and just select that very bone and just remove the keys where he's doing that. And actually in this very animation he doesn't move his toes at all, so we can just remove all of the keys on that bone and it will look better. There's some weird stuff going on here as well, where he steps down. So back to rig. You can see the keys here. Probably that should be way smoother. Like that. You can do exactly the same thing with the foot. But yeah, that's basically it. You could keep keying this and it could be like 1,000 times smoother. The poster could be 1,000 times cooler. But I'm not going to bother you with that sort of thing. but that's the technical side of it, how to clean up an animation. This could be a general thug sort of attack move in any sort of video game, for example, and so on. I hope you enjoyed it. Good luck mocapping and cleaning, basically. Ciao!